My mother lied for years and my sisters helped cover her affair when I exposed their fraud and betrayal. Everything they built on my father's name crumbled. You grow up thinking that some things are set in stone. Like your father's word. Like the sound of boots on dry dirt before sunrise. Like the ranch being in your blood whether you liked it or not. My name's Jake Miller. I'm 27 years old, and I've spent every damn day of my life on Miller Ridge Ranch, just outside of Carlsbad, New Mexico. My old man, Warren Miller, built this place from nothing. No land handed down, no family fortune. Just grit, cattle, and his bare hands. By the time I was 10, people in town already called him a legend. By 12, I was working fence lines before school. The ranch was our world, and he ruled it like a quiet king, stern but fair, tough as nails, and always the first to take a busted knuckle in stride. I used to love when things broke down. Not because it made more work, but because those rare quiet moments fixing tractors in the barn were the only real time I had with him. I remember holding the flashlight crooked, trying not to blink when he barked. You lighting the engine or blinding the damn oil pan? And then he'd glance up, that sideways smirk cracking through his dust-caked face, and mutter, "You'll get it." That meant more than, "I love you," ever would from a man like him. Mom didn't get it. She never did. Diane Miller had other priorities, mostly ones that involved expensive wine, seasonal gala dresses, and impressing people who didn't give two shits about cattle. If Dad was the backbone of this place, Mom was the polished face smiling for the cameras at charity events and ranch expos. She wasn't cruel, exactly. Just sharp. Always criticizing, always correcting. She could kill a room with a glance. If you showed up with dirt under your nails or wore the wrong boots to one of her fundraisers, she'd smile through gritted teeth and make you wish you'd stayed home. Her whole life revolved around what people thought. That's where Claire and Brooke come in, my older sisters. Claire's 30, Brooke's 28. They took after Mom in every way that mattered. Polished, poised, always in control. Claire runs PR for the ranch, handles all the social media and interviews. Brooke books events, keeps the brand shiny and modern. They dress like models, talk like politicians, and know more about wine pairings than they do about actual cattle. We all live on the same ranch, but sometimes it feels like we're in different worlds. I'm hauling feed before sunup, while Claire's practicing a TED Talk in the guest house. Brooke's planning another benefit auction while I'm knee-deep in a busted irrigation valve. Still, I didn't resent them. Not really. We just weren't the same. They had their spotlight, and I had mine. A flashlight in a dusty old barn, beside the only man who ever taught me what legacy really meant. Back then, I thought that was enough. But looking back now, I can see it clear as a branding scar. This family, for all its fame and success, was never as solid as the land it sat on. We were glossy on the outside and hollow underneath. And I was the only one too stubborn to see the cracks forming. It was one of those rare nights when the ranch felt still. No wind, no barking dogs, no squealing pipes or busted gates needing attention. Just the hiss of mesquite logs in the fire pit and the low hum of cicadas in the brush. Dad had just come back from another rodeo run, a 3-week circuit through Texas and Oklahoma. He still rode broncs in the senior division, though he was damn near 60. Said it kept his bones from freezing up. We were sitting out back, whiskey in hand, boots kicked up on a couple overturned buckets. He hadn't said much since he got home, just nodded at my updates about feed deliveries and the calf count. The fire crackled between us, casting shadows on his weathered face. After a while, he sighed. One of those deep, bone-tired sighs that seemed to come from a place further than the lungs. "You know," he started, his voice low, "I used to look forward to coming home." I glanced over. "Used to." He swirled the whiskey in his glass. "It's different now. Diane and the girls, they've got their own rhythm. I'm just noise in the background." I didn't know what to say, so I stayed quiet. She didn't come with me. Again, he tossed a twig into the fire. It snapped and flared up for a second. Been almost 5 years since she joined me on a single trip. "She's busy," I offered weakly. He chuckled, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Busy spending money. Planning getaways I'm not invited to. Did you know they went to Napa while I was in Tulsa? All 3 of them." I didn't know, and that hit harder than I expected. "I found the photos on Claire's Instagram," he said. "Vincent this, Vincent that. Private tastings. Spa days." He sipped his drink, jaw tight. Felt like I was looking at strangers. I shifted in my seat. "Why didn't you say anything?" "What's there to say, Jake? I sleep in the guest room half the time. My wife talks to me like I'm a client, and my daughters, hell, they barely ask me about the ranch anymore. Just tell me what brand deal they're chasing next." We sat in silence for a while. "I built this place for them," he said finally, "but I don't think they see me in it anymore." I looked into the fire, the logs crumbling like bones. That was the moment something shifted in me. I started to see what Dad had stopped saying a long time ago. Our family looked strong from the outside, but something was rotting in the beams. A few days later, I tried to play peacemaker. Maybe Dad was just tired. Maybe he was reading too much into things. I wanted to believe that. So I called Mom. Hey, I said. Thought it might be nice if we all went out this weekend. You, me, Claire, and Brooke. Family lunch on me. She paused for half a second, just enough to sting. Oh, honey, that's sweet. But we've got plans, she said. What kind of plans? Just girl time. It's been forever since we had a day to ourselves. It was vague. Too vague. Her voice had that clipped edge, like she was trying to end the call fast. All right, I said slowly. Some other time then. Of course, she chirped, already halfway gone. Talk soon. She hung up before I could say goodbye. I stood there holding the phone, jaw tight, stomach turning. Something wasn't right. That Saturday, I waited until I heard Claire's custom-painted SUV fire up. Canary yellow with chrome trim. Could have spotted it from a mile away. I followed at a distance in my old Chevy, keeping a few cars back, sticking to the right lanes. They headed west, out of town, past the usual shopping centers, past the turnoff to the spa. They kept going, almost an hour out, into wine country. They pulled into a gated estate. Big place. Fancy sign, Sierra Vista Vineyards. Definitely not the kind of spot you hit up on a whim. I parked down the road and walked the gravel shoulder until I could see the outdoor patio without being seen. There they were, Mom, Claire, and Brooke, seated at a long table shaded by an umbrella. Bottles of rose, plates of food arranged like art. And a man, late 30s, maybe early 40s. Too polished for ranch life. His hair looked styled by someone who charges per strand. Linen shirt, expensive watch, aviators perched on his head. He leaned in close to Mom, laughing like they were the only two people on earth. Then he touched her hand. Not casual. Not friendly. His fingers lingered. I felt the blood drain from my face. Mom didn't pull away. Brooke sipped her wine like it was all perfectly normal. Claire snapped a photo, then showed it to the table. They all laughed, including the stranger. My stomach twisted. I backed away, slow and quiet, trying not to kick up gravel. I didn't know who the hell he was, but I knew what I saw. I got in my truck, hands shaking on the wheel. This wasn't just neglect. This wasn't just being too wrapped up in appearances. It was something else entirely. And the worst part? They didn't even look like they were hiding it. I didn't wait long. They came out of the vineyard just before sunset, laughing like it had been the best day of their lives. Claire tossed her keys to the valet. Brooke adjusted her sunglasses even though the sun was nearly gone, and Mom leaned into the man's side like a teenager on a date. I stepped out from behind a row of parked cars. Claire saw me first. Her smile dropped. Jake, she said, like I'd crawled out of the dirt. What are you doing here? Nice day for wine, I said. Real cozy. Brooke's eyes narrowed. Are you following us? Wanted to have that family lunch after all, I said. Guess I was late. Mom froze. The man looked at me with a lazy smile, like he already knew who I was. Smug, expensive cologne, the kind of guy who thought cowboy boots were a costume. Who's this? He asked, smooth as butter. I ignored him. Who is he, Mom? I asked. And don't insult me by saying he's just a friend. She didn't answer. Claire stepped in. His name's Vincent. He's a business associate. I laughed. Business? Huh? He in the cattle game. Brooke rolled her eyes. Come on, Jake. Don't be dramatic. You're having lunch with some guy while Dad's out busting his back on the road. He hasn't seen you in weeks. Mom finally spoke, her voice clipped and cold. Warren chose that life, Jake. He chose rodeos over us. Don't twist this, I snapped. He thinks he's a stranger in his own home. Claire crossed her arms. He made himself a stranger. Always out chasing another buckle while we held things together. You held things together by hiding out here with some slick-haired investor? Vincent smiled, like it was all amusing. I wanted to wipe that smile off his face. Brooke tossed her hair over her shoulder. You don't understand, Jake. Vincent's been helping us. Helping how? Claire hesitated. Funding events. Sponsoring expansions. Networking opportunities. And in return? I asked. They glanced at each other. We've used some ranch funds, Brooke said carefully. Just a little. For travel, promotions, hosting. Hosting. I repeated. You mean siphoning off money through fake expenses? Claire snapped. We needed to show we were serious. Vincent expects a certain level of professionalism. Professionalism? I barked. You're stealing from your own father. It's not stealing, Brooke said defensively. It's investing in our future. I stared at them. 3 people I grew up with. Same kitchen table. Same Christmas mornings. Now standing in a vineyard with a stranger, justifying fraud like it was good business. You think he wouldn't find out? I asked. Mom looked away. He's not exactly paying attention. Now he will. I turned and walked back to my truck. They didn't follow. I didn't need to look back to know everything had changed. Whatever fantasy they were living in ended the moment they saw me. The mirage was gone. And what was left behind? Just the ugly truth, blistering under the desert sun. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sun had dipped below the hills, casting long shadows across the ranch. I could still smell dust in the air from the cattle we moved earlier that morning. It felt like a different world now, one where nothing was steady anymore. I found Mom in the sitting room, legs crossed like a queen in her throne, scrolling her phone like nothing had happened. There was a glass of wine on the end table, half full, lipstick on the rim. She looked up when I walked in, calm as ever. "I figured you'd show up eventually," she said. "I just left you an hour ago." She set her phone down, folded her hands in her lap. "You came here to yell? Or are you finally ready to listen?" I stared at her for a long moment. "I want to hear it from you," I said. "Everything." She didn't flinch. "I assume you're referring to Vincent. You mean the man who touched your hand like Dad didn't exist?" A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "Your father hasn't existed in this house for a long time." I stepped forward. "You've been cheating on him, using ranch money to fund some fantasy. Your daughters are in on it. You all lied to him." She gave a little shrug. "I didn't lie. I just stopped explaining myself." "You don't see anything wrong with this?" She tilted her head, eyes narrowing. "Jake, do you even know what it's like to be invisible? To host parties where no one asks where your husband is? To smile through it while he's off chasing bulls and cowboy trophies like we're stuck in some damn rodeo circuit forever?" I blinked. "So you cheat because you're lonely?" "I cheat," she said, "because I'm tired of pretending. I've been alone in this marriage for over a decade. Vincent makes me feel." She stopped, then waved a hand. "It doesn't matter." "It does to Dad," I said. "You've drained his money. Used the ranch like a personal ATM." She let out a dry laugh. "Please. He never cared about the money, Jake. He just cared about the land, the legacy, the cattle. We were always second to that." "You weren't second," I snapped. "You were just never satisfied unless people were watching you." That hit. I saw it in her jaw. She stood, her tone sharper now. "Don't act like your father's a saint. He abandoned this house long before I did. He chose longhorns over love. Every damn time. And you chose lies over loyalty." She stared at me like I was a stranger. "You think you're better than us, don't you?" "I think Dad deserves the truth." "Well," she said, lifting her wine glass again, "you better hope he can handle it." She turned away like I wasn't worth another breath. And right then, I knew she wasn't going to stop this. Not for guilt. Not for love. Not even for shame. She had rewritten the story in her head. And she truly believed she was the victim. We didn't talk at the house. I couldn't bring myself to tell Dad in front of all those walls that had hurt his boots for decades. It didn't seem right. So I waited until Sunday evening and asked him to meet me at the diner out on Highway 62. The one with the rusted sign and chipped mugs, where every rancher within 50 miles went for coffee and biscuits after church. He didn't ask questions, just showed up wearing his worn denim jacket and that same unreadable look he always wore when he was bracing for something. We got a booth near the back. Ordered coffee. Didn't say much until our plates came. He stirred his without drinking. Then he looked up. "All right," he said. "Go ahead." So I did. I told him everything. The vineyard. Vincent. The fake invoices. The phony event expenses. I told him about the trips, the lies, the way Mom and the girls had laughed with that man like he belonged. He didn't interrupt. Just stared at a spot on the table, like he was reading words no one else could see. When I finished, the silence was thick enough to chew. Finally, he took a slow breath, set his cup down, and looked me in the eye. "Thanks for telling me." "That's it?" I asked. He gave a tired smile. "You expected yelling?" "I expected something." He nodded once. "I did my yelling 20 years ago. Didn't do a damn bit of good then either." We sat there for a while, not touching our food. "I need your help," he said eventually. "Quiet help." "With what?" "Going through the books. Pulling up everything tied to Claire and Brooke. Events, vendors, accounts. I want a full picture." I nodded. "You thinking legal?" He gave a slight shrug. "Thinking I've spent too many years letting people I love run wild with my name on the checkbook." So that's what we did. Over the next week, we combed through every file we could access. Ranch expenses, credit card statements, contracts from events that never happened. Claire had created fake vendor accounts. Brooke had routed funds through shell companies with polished names like Southwest Horizons Consulting. But they weren't that careful. We traced receipts for luxury hotels, spa treatments, even a pair of $1,000 boots Vincent had charged to a fake ranch marketing expense. It was enough to make my stomach turn. When we were done, Dad called his attorney. Quietly. No big speech. No storming into the house. Just a firm, calm voice over the phone. "It's time we straighten this out." That night, sitting on the porch, he said something I'll never forget. They wanted me to fade out. Sit on the porch, nod my head, and die quiet. But if I'm going out with my boots on. And I believed him, because that old cowboy wasn't done yet. He was just getting started. Warren didn't wait. 2 days after finishing the audit, He walked into the main ranch office while Claire was mid-call and Brooke was sorting through glossy printouts for some charity luncheon. They looked up, confused at first. Then they saw his face. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't angry. He was calm. And that's what made it worse. "I need both of you to come with me," he said. Brooke blinked. "What's going on?" "Boardroom," he said. "Now." They followed him, more out of habit than respect. I was already inside when they walked in. Two of Dad's lawyers were sitting at the far end of the table, folders open, pens ready. Claire glanced at me. "Jake, what is this?" Dad stayed standing. "You've both been relieved of your duties." Brooke scoffed. "Excuse me. You no longer work for this ranch." Effective immediately, Claire looked from him to the lawyers. "You're joking." He shook his head. "I wish I was." They started talking over each other. Denials, justifications, fake confusion. Dad raised one hand. "No need to explain. We've seen the files. We've traced the money. Every fake vendor. Every gift. Every lie." Brooke turned to me. "You set us up." I didn't flinch. "You set yourselves up. I just followed the trail." Claire stepped forward. "Dad, let's be reasonable." I was reasonable, he said, his voice hard now. "For too long." Within the hour, accounts were frozen. Access codes revoked. Emails disabled. The ranch's entire financial structure was rerouted to Dad's direct oversight, with me listed as successor and acting operations lead. Diane was next. The papers were delivered to the main house by a courier, divorce, asset division, a full accounting of the financial misuses. Dad didn't even go inside. He stood by the barn, watching through the dust as the man in a suit handed her the envelope. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She read the name on the document, gave a small, bitter laugh, and walked back into the house without a word. She tried calling him later. He let it ring, then blocked the number. The news spread fast. Too fast. By the next morning, rumors were flying through Carlsbad like wildfire. That the Millers were splitting. That the daughters were fired. That Diane had been seen shouting at a florist over a canceled gala deposit. People whispered at the feed store, the diner, even at church. But Dad didn't care. Not anymore. He went back to work like it was any other week. And I stayed by his side, knowing for the first time in a long time, we were finally on the same team. No more pretending. No more lies. Just dust, sweat, and the truth. It didn't take long for everything to unravel. Vincent's family was old money Texas. Oil, vineyards, and a last name that bought favors in every corner of the state. When word got out about the affair, the funds funneled from our ranch into Vincent's investments. The scandal that had already started rippling through local news. His people moved fast. I didn't hear it from Diane or the girls. I heard it from one of the ranch hands who used to do seasonal work at Vincent's family vineyard. "They cut him off," he said, leaning on the gate like it was gossip hour. "Kicked him out of the penthouse in Santa Fe. Took the car. Froze his trust fund. I didn't ask for proof. I didn't need it. That kind of family doesn't tolerate scandal unless they're the ones controlling it." By the following week, Diane, Claire, and Brooke were gone from the estate. They didn't go far, just far enough to save face, barely. A little rental cabin west of town. Used to be a vacation spot for hunters, but now it was home. 1 bathroom, 2 bedrooms, no yard, and a busted window screen that let in flies no matter how hard you tried to sweat them. They went from catered brunches to boxed mac and cheese. Claire tried to keep her image intact. Kept posting photos like nothing had changed, sunlight through coffee cups, reposted inspirational quotes. But people knew. The comments turned cold. Invitations stopped coming. Brooke had it worse. She applied for jobs at local event companies, some of which she'd laughed at in the past. Word got around fast. Nobody wanted the girl who stole from her own family. Nobody wanted to trust their books to someone whose last paycheck came with a legal notice. Diane tried to float above it. She showed up at the grocery store in oversized sunglasses, buying cheap wine and pretending not to notice the whispers. But she noticed. You can see it in the way her smile twitched when someone from church passed by without stopping to say hello. Once, I saw her in the parking lot of the bank, talking to a teller through her car window. She looked smaller somehow. Not broken, but deflated. Like a balloon that had finally accepted it wasn't going to float again. They didn't call. They didn't come back to the ranch. They didn't even try to apologize. But they were hurting. And maybe, just maybe, that was the first honest thing about them I'd seen in a long time. Dad never asked about them. Not once. He just worked. Quiet, steady, focused. One night, I caught him standing alone by the fence, watching the sun drop behind the hills. He didn't say a word. Just nodded once when he saw me. We didn't need to talk. The dust had settled. And the house of cards had finally collapsed. A couple weeks passed without a word from them. No texts. No surprise visits. Just silence. And honestly, it felt like peace. Until Claire called. I didn't answer. But I listened to the voicemail. "Jake, it's about Rachel's wedding. She was hoping maybe you could talk to Dad." just to help out a little. Nothing big, just the venue deposit. Rachel was Claire's best friend and Vincent's niece, one of those rich kid socialites who used to drink wine on our ranch porch like it was a resort. I hadn't heard her name since the fallout. I called Claire back. "Let me get this straight," I said. "You want me to convince Dad to pay for the wedding of the woman whose uncle helped wreck our family?" There was a pause. Then her voice softened, fake sweet. "Jake, come on. We're still family. We've all made mistakes." I laughed. It wasn't funny, but it came out like a gut punch. "You lost the right to call yourself family when you stole from Dad and stood by while Mom humiliated him." Her tone turned sharp. "You're so self-righteous. Like you've never made a mistake." "Yeah," I said. "I made one. I let you all get away with this for too long." I hung up. That night, I sat on the porch with Dad. He was drinking coffee, not whiskey. Said he'd had enough of cloudy thinking. "I've been updating the will," he said without looking at me. "Making things simple." I didn't ask what that meant. But a week later, the papers were filed. Warren Miller made Jake Miller the sole heir of Miller Ridge Ranch. The cattle, the land, the operation, all of it. Claire and Brooke were written out. Completely. When the lawyer handed me the folder, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady, grounded, like I was finally standing in boots that truly fit. Dad started riding again, back on the circuit. Not for the money, not for the trophies, for the freedom. "Place is in good hands now," he said before heading out one morning, saddle slung over his shoulder like he was 30 years younger. "I can finally breathe again." And I believed him. Because for the first time, I wasn't the kid holding the flashlight anymore. I was the one under the hood, turning the bolts, keeping the engine running. Neighbors came by more often now. They asked for my opinion on fencing issues, water rights, cattle health. I started running team meetings in the barn on Sundays, going over herd schedules and hay delivery windows. Folks listened. And more importantly, they respected it. One afternoon, I was walking the fence line with the ranch dog trailing behind me. Dust kicked up around my boots, sun beating down on my back. I paused at the edge of the west pasture and looked out at the spread. The land wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was honest. And it was ours. Mine to protect. And if I had to rebuild the Miller name from the dirt up, I would. With or without the ones who tried to bury it. Because blood doesn't make you family. Loyalty does.